Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another week's MrMatchat. This one's probably going to be slightly later than all the others, but you know me. And, well, as you can probably tell this week, we are talking about Stanley Parable. Oh, we might be here for a little while on this one, because I bloody love Stanley Parable. I mean, I love it. I really hope I can contain myself in this one, because I feel like I can just blab on about it for a while. I mean, I played the first. Okay, let me just start again before I'm getting really excited, getting really ahead of my. I'll start. Stanley Parable was originally a mod for Half-Life 2, using the Source engine, and which told the story of Stanley, and I guess the narrator, for the lack of a better term, and it was all about his day in the life of Stanley, in which everyone's disappeared. Eventually, the mod had somewhat of a cult following, something like Portal. It was really very well received, if albeit a little unknown. It was a little bit under the radar, and the developers took this as a good sign, and they started taking it into a full release. And one thing that's, if you don't know anything about Stanley Parable, go watch the trailers. They were actually really good with their marketing in Stanley Parable. Basically, they started with a series of in one in particular I'm talking about is the Raphael trailer, in which they received an email from a person called Raphael, and essentially they take his email, the actual email that's a real person, or we only assume a real person, sent into the company about Stanley Parable, and just read through and did a demonstration all about how the game is that much better. And it's all done through the narrator's voice as well, so even in the trailers you get an understanding for the sort of characters and introduction you're getting into. And the story itself in Stanley Parable, it's just so good. Because on like the baseline it is just, okay, you're at work, you're playing as this guy Stanley, you're at work, and everyone's gone. You know, what are you meant to do? Yet they go so many different places with it. I mean, obviously the way they introduce it, and actually, oh God, I'm getting even further ahead of myself. Apart from the trailer, let's go. I'm going all the way back. Let's talk about before the game was even released. Their marketing for this game, because they had really great trailers, separate to like just showing off gameplay and things like that. It was essential. I mean, like they had a really unique thing. They also released a demo, and not only was this demo not physical gameplay from the game, it was its own unique experience. Which not only did they also sent like special copies out to a few YouTubers, such as well, the Game Grumps example is a good one, in which it was tweaked to actually, you know, speak to them directly, and that is just literally, if nothing gets better hype for a game than actually giving people things. And of course they could only speak good things about the game because they were given access to a demo which was specialized for them. But even in the demo, it gives you a unique taster. It's its own. The demo in itself is its own experience. You can get the demo for free and come away with it still thinking, I have no idea what I've just played. I haven't the foggiest, and I'm not even talking about the game yet. And alright, so I've gone through a few weeks like I did with Gone Home and then Dive Kick. Stanley Parable is an it's a narrative. That's essentially all it is. It's a game in which you walk around and you sort of you just literally go from point A to point B, and you're given a set choices. Although the way the narration is, it's implied that you don't have any choice. And it's only through not following the narrator's always got this fixed path, and no matter what you do, the narrator's always going to try to push you back onto this path, which it's just the writing. Whoever did the writing for Stanley Parable needs a medal. He needs like awards and everything, because the way the narrator speaks, the way he acts, the way the story is very focused, because it's not a story that you never get this implied thing that, oh, it's just, you know, some guy creating a story that the narrator is speaking. It's always the narrator who's in control. Although there's no like I said, the way I describe the game as it is a pure narrative, because just like Gone Home, except slightly stripped back, there's no strict gameplay to this game. There's no gun, there's no okay. Literally, you just walk and choose. Those are your options. You can only really yeah, there's no, you open doors. That's about it as the extent of what you can actually do. And yet it gets away with so. I mean, this is a perfect story of how a self-contained narrative should be done. It's I just look I keep because this game is so good. This game has one of the premises and the selling points of this game is the collection of endings. It has a whole variety of endings, and it's all down to your choice, sort of thing. I mean, they have endings that you wouldn't even expect, sort of thing. So like close to one of the endings is you jump out of a window, but getting to jumping out of a window, there's no jump key or anything. So it's this whole like climbing on a desk, sort of like edging over sort of thing, getting in, and then falling out a window that presents you with this ending. But on the other side, there's a part in which you end up in this museum, and in this museum, they talk about the development of the game. I mean, that is like meta as shit for one, and having that sort of feature in that. I mean, like, I think games need to include things like this more, even if it's just like an add-on. So it's like, what was it that did it? It was like Call of Duty that had like that museum level in which you can just go around a different level and look at different things and stuff. But something that actually breaks down all the important decisions of a game that you basically, because like in Stanley Parable they had like level mock-ups and things like that. They had like features they didn't include and why. They had like different areas and things, and it was just like this is wow, this is such an insight into the actual creation of the game that you just don't get to see with games nowadays, which obviously they come across as polished fantasy, but as an aspiring designer sort of thing, to be able to see this section, it's just like, oh, this is nice. The game focuses heavily around player choice, and I mean, like, I guess if you've probably looked around my blog, which I think might be in the description below, if not, I'll put it in there, or if you're watching it on my blog, hello. But it's something I like narrative games. So I think that is what I really strive towards, just because I like the idea of a game telling a story. I like it when gameplay holds up. But in the same way that you read a book for the story, I want people to be playing games for the story. I mean, not 9 times out of 10, that's an absolute lie. But there is a point in which features and gameplay can become a gimmick to what... Because Stanley Parable, no cutscenes. That's the first thing. That's really important. Everything you do, you still have full control of your character. Well, okay. Well, yeah, you still have control. You can walk around, look around and everything, and it rewards inquisitive. Literally, like, basically, the way that the script is and the narrator speaks to you, each time you disobey him and move away, you honestly get the idea that it's as if like someone tells you to do something and you don't do it right in their face, and they're just like, okay, that's what you're doing, mate. Don't do that. I just asked you to do that, and you're messing around. See, now I'm curious about how much of this is actually going to be an intellectual breakdown of the actual design aspects of Stanley Parable, and how much of it's actually going to be a bit of a bumsuck. But I think there are a few, as a semi-spoiler sort of thing. I probably haven't said this. Go buy the game, play it, do that, or at least get the demo. And if that doesn't blow your mind away, you've got problems, or if But there's a part in the game in which you enter your boss's office, and there's a keypad, and the narrator says the code for the keypad, following it by, but there's no way Stanley could have known this. And then obviously you're meant to push the buttons in the keyboard and magically open the door, and everything's like, oh, look at that! You press random buttons and magically works out. But the game has obviously, like, each time you reach an ending, it loops back to the beginning. There's literally, once you play through the ending, which will take you about an hour, I think. You know, an hour's a good time to get through all these sort of sections of the game. But there's a part where obviously you want to play through and you want to get through it as fast as possible. If you rush into the room and just type in the code because you remembered it before the narrator tells you the code, they stop. They basically point and laugh, because the game is that self-aware that it knows you've played through it before and sort of picks on you and laughs at you for doing that and makes you wait as if, you know, you had to go through the thing. It's just clever design, clever. Although one of the things, like, is there much you can take? Is there much like AAA designers can take away from Stanley Parable? I think that's an important point of discussion, because Stanley Parable is so unique. It's very refreshing. I mean, compared to today's market and everything. But can it be recreated in such ways? And I don't think that's possible, because let's say, for example, would Stanley Parable still be the same game if between each room you would have a gun and an enemy to shoot at? It feels like it would sort of, defile is a strong word, but it would sort of take away from the narrative experience that the Stanley Parable is. Because it doesn't need any gameplay features for it to be great. But its sort of style I don't think can be recreated in such the same way. At least with it not being that of a gimmick or that of a new style. That's why Stanley Parable's so unique. They've done something incredibly great. They've gone far ahead of any expectations of a cult hit, well, personally at least. And yet, it's hard to take things away from Stanley Parable, because, damn, this is I mean, like, I've played through this game multiple times. I mean, like, I enjoy it so much, and chances are each time you play through it, you're always going to get some sort of unique dialogue and experiences. And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the There's a limited amount of endings, but I mean, that's given. A game can't have unlimited endings. And yet, it feels like it's not missing anything. The game itself is 100% complete. There are very few things that you could do to improve this game. And I think that is an incredible achievement. Because by all means, I think, on a narrative standpoint, Stanley Parable is a perfect game. It left me wanting more at the end because it was just so bloody good, but I was satisfied because the game itself you could finish in 5 minutes. One ending. But there's so much more. And it's not even a full price game. I mean, you're getting so much more than you would as opposed to, well, I guess go play Stanley Parable. That's your homework for the week. Go away, go play Stanley Parable, and come back and tell me how great it is. Damn, I think this has been somewhat of a mishmash. It's probably incredibly messy, but I'm just glad I could get that off my chest. If I find someone who hasn't played the Stanley Parable, I tell them, you need to play the Stanley Parable. Sometimes I even let them play it on my laptop, just because they need to experience it. But I think that's it for me. This has been MrMatchow. Thank you for listening to this Stanley Parable appreciation video. Be sure to tune in again next week. And thanks again for watching. Bye.